Hello everyone, Jason here. In this video today I'm going to share a story about police corruption, a personal experience quite a while that happened to me about basically how I was ticketed for something I didn't do, and just the whole ordeal, the traffic stop, and how it was really all just a setup, and how the courts play into it as a corrupt system and all that. So a lot of people these days have this idea that cops are on their side and the police force is out there to protect us as citizens, as taxpayers, however you want to look at it, that the American police in general are the good guys, and maybe there's a few bad apples. We see those videos of those beat downs and those excessive force, and it's just here and there's just some bad apples. Maybe some other people think the whole thing's pretty corrupt, but there's still good cops left. Well, I'm here to tell you that it's not about whether there's good cops or bad cops. It's the system, and the system's corrupt to the core. The police force, they're not out there to protect you. They have one job, that's to collect revenue for the state. They do that by enforcing the traffic codes. I'm talking about traffic police here. They give you tickets for nonviolent violations. They're not crimes according to the Constitution. They're violations. They're traffic violations. That's what they're called. And you go to a traffic court, which is also not a constitutional court, and they sue you for money. That's what a ticket is, and then you end up having to pay them the fee or go to jail. So doesn't matter what it is. Not wearing your seatbelt, that's one. No insurance, no registration, driving without a license, speeding. They don't hurt anyone. They're not crimes. They're not really crimes. You haven't harmed anyone. They're just violations. Maybe in a very few select small cases, there's actually some wrongdoing, like reckless driving. Possibly sometimes reckless driving, maybe they're actually getting someone dangerous off the roads. DUI, that's arguable. That's a topic for a whole nother thing. The whole DUI thing is a scam. But in some cases, maybe DUI stops are actually getting dangerous drivers off the road. Doesn't make it right or justified if they haven't harmed anyone. But nonetheless, maybe in a few small cases. But for the most part, they collect revenue, especially DUI, but like I said, whole nother topic. But it's all big revenue collection for the state. That's what it is. It's not about keeping you safe. And they do this by enforcing the traffic codes. And there's other police that do other things besides traffic enforcement, and their job's pretty much the same thing. If it's not collecting revenue, it's arresting people to fill the for-profit private prisons. Again, it's all about getting your money. It's not about keeping you safe. It's not about protecting you. So anyway, traffic cops, that's what I'm going to focus on here. That's what the majority of people have run-ins with, traffic cops. And I've heard so many people say, oh, but they're just doing their job. They're just enforcing the law, enforcing the traffic codes. Well, let's put aside that the traffic codes and the actual law, according to the law of the land, the Constitution, two separate things. Let's put that aside. Even still, if you believe that that's what they do, they go around and enforce the traffic codes. Even that, no, that's not the case. They'll go around and they will issue tickets to people that have not even violated the code. Whether or not you agree that that's good code, bad code, doesn't matter. They go around and break their own law all the time. Probably across the country, every single day. There's at least one instance across this country where they are issuing fines to people that have not violated the codes. How do I know? It happened to me. So I'm going to share my story in this. Maybe a few people will be enlightened to the reality of how traffic police work in this country. And yes, there's some that are, less corrupt. Maybe they're still going to go around and give tickets, but maybe they'll only give tickets to, people that have actually broken the codes. That doesn't make the whole system any better. The whole system's based on enforcing violations of codes, which is basically extorting money from nonviolent people. So anyway, but even if you believe that whole system's good and it's a good thing to, have to pay a fine to armed men, extorting you for, doing something that hasn't hurt anyone, not having the right license plate, not having a tag on your vehicle, not having a sticker, not having government permission to drive on the roads, forget right to travel. But, maybe you agree that's good. I'm here to tell you it doesn't matter. At any point, you could be the next victim. You could have done nothing wrong. You could be going under the speed limit and get a speeding ticket. It happens. Anyway, here's my story. I'm going to start from the beginning and just share what happened. So, I think this happened 2009. I was a lot younger then, a little more scared, a little more fearful, I guess, than I am now. I was young. I was driving an old beater Mazda. I mean, it didn't have like crash or anything, but old car. It looked obvious I wasn't rich. So I'm driving along in my Mazda. This is in Bozeman, Montana. Coming out of, there's a canyon there. Windy road, speed limit 60 miles an hour. As soon as you get out of the canyon, it changes to 70 miles an hour. So I get out of the canyon. I've got a passenger with me. We had gone hiking in the mountains. I remember it's September 2009. There had just been a snowstorm. The mountain peaks were covered in snow, early snowstorm. I remember that. I'll never forget this day, as hard as I try. Anyway, it's a wake-up call when it happens to you. But anyway, so I'm driving along. I got a passenger, an acquaintance. We went hiking. His name's Josh. And yeah, so driving along, come out of the canyon. I remember going from 60 to 70 and just putting along, big, wide open, straight part of the highway, going 70 miles an hour. Montana Highway Patrol passes, going the other direction. I'm going this way. He passes and immediately turns around and comes up behind. So I immediately, first thing I do, and Josh did the same thing. We looked at my speedometer. It's right on 70. I'm like, this is weird. I wonder what I did that he's going to pull me over. So I'm bracing for it. I'm like, this is a little strange. I've gotten some speeding tickets in the past, and usually I'm speeding when I get a speeding ticket. That's at this point in my life. In the past, when I was really young, 18, 19, I sped a lot. I didn't care, and I got tickets and I paid them because I sped. And I was like, I'm not gonna fight a ticket that I know I broke the code, even though I don't agree with the whole system. So this was weird, really weird, because usually that's what they're pulling you over. I know I got tags up to date. What could he? I don't have any broken headlights. It's daytime. It shouldn't matter, but I don't have I don't even have a cracked window shield. It's really common in Montana, but I don't even have that. So I have no idea. I'm like, I don't know. This is weird. So sure enough, pulls up on me. He had to have been going at least 80, 90 to catch up to me if I'm going 70. And as we're going to quickly find out, he accused me that's not the case. So anyway, that's the funny thing about speeding. If a cop catches you for speeding, it means he has to speed. And if the theory is that speeding's dangerous and he has to speed even faster than the speeder to catch the speeder, then they're constantly putting people at risk. So it's kind of a hypocrisy double standard, but that's just how it goes with cops. And that's their mentality. They get to do whatever they want, and you can only do what they say you can do. So anyway, he pulls me over. I pull over. Lights go on. Whole woo, the whole thing. I'm a little nervous, to be honest. A little nervous because I wasn't speeding, and I know everything's in order. So I'm like, what's going on here? So officer comes to my window, roll it down. I left the car on because I thought probably this is gonna go pretty quick. I don't know. It's probably gonna give me a warning for some silly little thing. No, little did I know what it's gonna turn into a really big ordeal. So he, first thing they always say, you know why I pulled you over? And I'm like, nope. So he's like, you're, I think, I'm trying to remember this detail. He might have actually not asked. He's like, did you know that you were, I'm not sure if he asked me or just straight up told me. But in most cases, they'll ask you, do you know why I pulled you over? As if like you're supposed to be psychic or something. It's how they started. It's just part of the power trip game. They want to like start off with this whole deal. Like, do you know what you did wrong so that I can come and teach you a lesson? And then if you don't know, maybe, they're going to be a little harsher. And if you do know, I don't know. But that's just typically how it goes. Anyway, I don't remember the specific on that, if he asked me or just straight up told me. But I think he asked me. I think he said, do you know why I pulled you over? And I'm like, no, sir. I have no idea. I know I wasn't speeding. I might not have actually said that, but that's what I'm definitely thinking in my head. So he's clearly not in a good mood from the very get-go. He's like, you're going 86 and a 70. I'm like, no, I don't think so. But is that why you pulled me over? He's like, yeah, going 86 and a 70. I'm like, okay, well, so I need to see your driver's license, registration, insurance. So I get him all that, and then he's like, all right, I need to see the passenger's license. And I'm trying to tell him, no, you don't. You don't have to see it. Don't give it to him, Josh. But he walks around to the passenger window. Josh rolls it down. Go ahead. I'm like, Josh, don't do it. Don't do it. Only the driver, the person driving the car, it's their term. Shouldn't actually be called a driver, but whatever. We're the traveling. That's the lawful word. That's how they get us. If you're a driver, it's part of the whole commercial thing, but that's whole another video. Anyway, back to the story. So he goes over to Josh's window. Josh hands him the license, and he goes to grab it, and it falls. And, oh, man, this cop he's angry. He's like, why'd you throw that on the ground? You being disrespectful? And Josh's like, no, I'm sorry. I thought you had grabbed it. I didn't mean to drop it. It wasn't intentional. And he's like, you open up that door and you pick that up and you give it to me. He's like, don't you dare be disrespectful like that. And I'm just like, okay, this cop's he's got issues. Like, he's out for blood today. And I don't know what I did, because I know no way I was going 86. Speedometer right at 70 the whole time. I was watching close. So anyway, he opens the door, gives him the driver's license. The cop looks at it, walks back around to my side. Keeps Josh's license, of course, comes over to my side. He's already taken my license and stuff, comes back over to my side. He's like, I'm going to need you to step out of the vehicle. Okay, I know this is getting really strange. They never ask you to step out of the vehicle if you're speeding. They go back to their car. They write you a ticket or a warning or whatever they're going to do. They run your tags. They run your license. Make sure you don't have any warrants. Make sure your registration's up to date. Make sure your insurance is good. They come back, give you your ticket, give you your warning, and you're off. Maybe 15 minutes max, usually like 5-10 minutes in my experience. But no, he's like, I need you to get out of the vehicle. I'm like, excuse me? He's like, I need you to step out of the vehicle, sir. So not thinking to turn off the car, I wasn't thinking about it. I'm getting really nervous. I'm like, am I about to get like arrested for who knows what? So I get out of the vehicle. I'm cooperating as best I can. He just starts going off about how, you were going 86, that's so dangerous, blah, blah, blah. And I'm just like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. My speedometer said 70. I think there's been a misunderstanding. Something must be wrong, because there's no way I could be going 86. And he's like, oh, no. He's like, you were going way faster. He's like, when you came up on me, I could notice your rate of speed was going way faster. So that's when I checked the speedometer, and you were slowing down when I saw 86. He's like, when you saw me, you hit the brakes. He's like, you were going way faster than 86, but I only clocked you at 86 because by the time I noticed you were speeding and looked at my speedometer, that's what I got you at. He's like, but you were slowing down, so you were going over 86. I'm like, okay, there's something going on here. There's no way I was going like 90 miles an hour. Maybe 75. My speedometer is like at 70, maybe 72. You know how speedometers are. I'm right at 70. So maybe could be 5 miles an hour off. I don't know. Anyway, so he's like, I need you to come back to my vehicle. I'm like, why? He's like, I need to talk to you while I get you your ticket. And the whole time I can continue to insist that I wasn't speeding. I don't understand how this is possible. Would you please explain? Could my speedometer be off by 16 miles an hour? Is that even possible? And he's like, I don't know how speedometers work. He's like, all I know is I got you at 86, so you're going 86. And he's just stuck to that line. So I went back to the car. Probably should have tried to insist that I want to stay in the car, but I'm trying to cooperate. I'm young, really nervous at this point. So I go back to the car. My car's still running because I didn't think to turn it off. Anyway, go back to his car. As soon as we get in the car and I'm alone with him, immediately he's like, so, He's like, I noticed a bong in your back seat. I'm like, what? Bong? He's like, yeah. You got any marijuana in the car? I'm like, no, I didn't. There was no marijuana. We hadn't smoked any marijuana. Josh liked to smoke a lot. I've had weed in the past, but like not that day. I hadn't, no weed. So definitely no weed in the car. I don't think Josh had even smoked that day. I know for certain I hadn't. Definitely not. I would never smoke and drive. Anyway, he's like, oh, well, I saw a bong in your backseat, and I saw Josh reach and hide it. I'm like, well, there's no bongs. I don't know what you're talking about. He's like, well, what is it then? I'm like, I don't know. I had just cleaned out my car. So as far as I knew, the car was pretty empty, and it was pretty empty. That was the only thing, what he was calling a bong, and I couldn't remember for the life of me what was back there that might resemble a bong. All I knew is there wasn't a bong, so I just said, no, there's no bong. And he just kept straight up accusing me, and he's like, I know, you have a bong. I'm like, no, I don't have a bong. I'd love to go out and get it and show you. He's like, no, you stay here. We'll get to that. Trust me, we'll get to that. He's like, but he's like, it's better to just admit it. He's like, there's weed in the car. Where is it? I'm like, there's no weed in the car. He's like, oh, what are you up to? Where did you come from? I think he asked me this first before he started laying in the questions, and I shouldn't have answered questions. That's a tip. Don't answer any questions. Even if they act, because he was acting a little nice when we first got in the car. So he asked me where we'd been, and I said we were hiking. So at some point, I think that was right when we got in the car, and then he was pointing to his radar gun, and at this point I'm still telling him that I wasn't speeding, and he's like, look at that. So I looked at it, and he's like, it says 86, see? I'm like, I see it, but I wasn't going 86, so I'm confused, and he's like, no, see? You were going 86. Just look, 86, right? I didn't want to agree with him because he's trying to get me to admit on camera that I was speeding, so I'm just like, yeah, I'm looking at it, I wasn't going 86. I don't know what that numbers on the screen mean, but I wasn't going that speed, so I'm sorry. I'm confused. And he's like, I got you at 86. And then he laid into me on the questions and all this that I just explained. So he's like, he's like, but marijuana, where is it? I know you got some. And I'm like, no, I don't. And neither does Josh. I'm fairly certain. And I'm absolutely 100% sure there's no bong in the car. Absolutely. So, he just keeps accusing me. No, I saw the bong. If you don't know what it is and you can't tell me, it's because it's a bong. And it was clearly at this point he was fishing. He was trying to get a weed ticket, a lot more money than a speeding ticket. So, eventually, he just straight up accuses me. He's like, oh, I know you were puffing on the mountain, he says. Puffing on the mountain, just ridiculous. But anyway, he's like, I know you were puffing on the mountain. Just admit it. And I'm like, no, I wasn't. He's like, oh, you rolled you one puffing on the mountain. No, wasn't puffing on the mountain. Don't have a bong in my car. And at this point, I'm just like, and I'm done. I'm not answering your questions. There's no weed in the car. There's no bong. I wasn't puffing on the mountain. That's it. So he's like, oh, we got an issue here. And at this point, it'd been 20 minutes at least, I think, in the back of his car. And he was this went on for back and forth, probably at least 20 different times in various manners. He accused me. Sometimes he asked me. Other times he straight up accused me. Oh, I know you were. Or other times it's, you sure you weren't? And if you just admit it, I know you were. And this whole shifting between accusing and asking and implying just went on and on and on. Probably 20 times that he accused me or asked me if I was smoking. Anyway, the most ridiculous part of it was, I know you were puffing on the mountain. It's ridiculous. Anyway, pretty funny. But he's like, oh, we got a problem here. Your buddy, you know anything about your buddy? I was like, I'm not answering questions about my buddy. But I kind of thought maybe the reason he was asking all these questions about weed is because maybe Josh had got a marijuana possession ticket in the past. I wasn't certain, but I thought maybe. I wasn't good friends with the guy, just acquaintance, and we just went on a hike. But I thought that maybe he had possibly had a marijuana possession ticket. So anyway, that's my kind of thoughts of why he's going into this. And it turns out, actually, that wasn't the case. That's not why. I don't think that's why he was asking the questions. It was all related to this so-called bong in the back of my car behind Josh's seat that the passenger was hiding when I came up to the car. He didn't even put his hands behind the seat. This guy was just off his rocker. He was out for blood for sure. Anyway, he's like, we got an issue here. He's like, we're going to have to arrest your buddy, Josh. And I'm not going to say his last name, but he called him by his last name, Mr. So-and-so. Anyway, so, I'm just like, arrest him? What's going on? He's like, oh, outstanding warrant. And I'm like, did he, like, not pay a possession ticket? What it turns out, later I find out, it turns out he had a expired registration that he never paid. So, once again, not harming anyone, non-violent, and they're going to literally arrest this guy. So he had to call someone, and he's like, we're going to have to wait, but I'm just here to tell you, we're going to have to arrest your buddy here. I'm just like, man, this is crazy. And then he lays back into the whole bong thing, and if it's not a bong, what is it? And if you don't know what it is, it's because you're lying, and blah, blah. I'm just like, no. I don't know. I'd love to go show. No, not now. We'll get to that later. I'm just like, then stop asking me. I'm thinking, like, this is ridiculous. Anyway, eventually the second cop shows up, and they talk, and I hear him. He gets out of the car talking to the second cop, and this guy that pulled me over is a sergeant, and this other guy, I don't know, he's, I think, probably a step down below him, it seemed like. But he was explaining everything. He's like, hey, he says it's not a bong, but I can't see in there well enough because tinted windows, but I know it's a bong, and we gotta get in there and search it, get this bong. And he's like, but let's do the arrest. So they go over, and I hear him talking, and they explain to Josh, we're about to arrest you, please don't resist. Do you have any knives on you, any weapons? They always ask this before, anything I need to know about. And please, if you don't resist, don't make this hard on yourself. If you just get out of the car. Josh is angry, but, he cooperates. He opens the door, puts his hand behind his back. They immediately cuff him or roughhouse him. They don't treat you very nice. Treat you like a victim, because that's what you are. But Josh's a big guy, and he's cooperating, but he's not happy about it. And anyway, so what's this? Oh, it's his insulin. It's my insulin. He says, please don't crush the insulin pins. I need that. What do? They take every single little, whatever they're called, the insulin deals, and throw them on the ground. Every single one. He's like, hey, stop that. That's my insulin. Throws every single one on the ground. He's like, oh, you got to make sure there's no drugs in here, heroin. Just like, this is just ridiculous. Anyway, finally, it takes another probably 15 minutes for them to wrap up with the arrest. So they bring him back, put him in the other cop's car so that we're not together. And then he comes back. He's like, all right, you can come out. You can show me that bong now. So we walk over, him and the other cop. And they're like, well, at some point during the arrest or right before or after, before they let me out, my car started to overheat because it had issues and it was still on. I guess Josh didn't think to turn it off. And anyway, it had been at least half an hour and I had an issue where the fan didn't work. So obviously after like 30, 40 minutes, it's going to overheat. So smoke starts coming out and I want to get out and go turn it off. He's like, no, I'll get it. I'll turn it off for you. So he runs up and turns it off for me, and that's all good. But anyway, at this point, after they finish arresting Josh, put him in the car, abusing him, throwing his insulins on the ground, searching for illegal drugs, they say, cop finally comes up to me and tells me I can come out now and show him the bong. I'm like, I would love to show you what this is. I love to know what it is that you think is a bong that I know isn't. So he's like, okay. So he's telling the other cops, I know it's a bong. I can't. He's so excited that he's about to get bust me for a bong. So I open the door and I pull this thing out. And it's a window shield scraper. I had done a job and these people had given me a window shield scraper. That's why I didn't remember it, because I had just been given it and I'd thrown it back under the back passenger seat and the car was empty except for the window shield scraper. And you should have seen the look on his face when he saw that it was a window shield scraper. He just, his eyes just bugged out, and he just, all of a sudden, you could just see the defeat in his face, because he had just told this other cop how I was a liar and trying to hide a bong and blah, 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 and it's a window shield scraper. So that was the best, seeing the look on his face there. And And the other cop went and drove Josh off, and he brought me back to the car again, gave me my ticket. He's like, "Nah, you understand you're going 86? I'm like, "No, I don't understand." He's like, "Well, you have to sign this anyway. This is not a signing of guilt. You have to sign the papers." And I shouldn't have signed the papers, but I signed the papers, whatever, got my ticket, and I was like, "I'll see you in court." And I was like, "I want to ask you just one more time, how is it possible that your radar gun got me at 86 when I was going 70? Because I know I was going 70. And he's just like, "You're going 86. I was like, "Okay." So then my car was like all out of coolant and stuff, and it was like I think I might have had some water to put in there, but didn't offer to help or anything. He's like, "Oh, hope you make it back to town all right," all sarcastic, and he drives off. So I'm like left there and have to limp my way into town. I had to stop like 3 or 4 times because I'm on such low coolant and had only so much water to pour in there before I get to a gas station and refill it up, and not at all helpful. And anyway, so I decide I'm going to fight this thing. I was not speeding, so I'm going to go to court. I don't know how to fight a speeding ticket because I don't know what evidence he has because I wasn't speeding. So I don't know how this is possible. So I'm like, I know I don't stand a good chance in court, but I'm going to fight it. So I knew a guy that he's more of a Freeman type. So, more into the whole constitutionality and how the courts are not even legitimate, which is all true, but it doesn't matter. Using those arguments is completely fruitless. You have to kind of play by their rules if you want any shot of getting anywhere. So I, for the most part, play by their rules. I learned a lot of the codes. I learned that an appearance, according to, he gave me what that ticket is actually a notice to appear in court. But according to Montana code, you can appear in the definition by sending in you can appear on paper. So I did. I appeared on paper. I wrote down the code, sent it in. I said, I'm not going to actually show up inside court unless I get a court order by the judge. So then, of course, the court mails me a court order to show up in court. And I'd plead. I already made my plea on paper. You can do that. You can plea on paper. It's good to do everything on paper so it's in the records. So I did. I made my plea. I said I wasn't guilty. I wasn't speeding. I don't owe the state any money. I don't know what's going on, and I want this to be immediately dismissed. Of course, that's not what's going to happen, but you have to state your innocence from the get-go. So I show up in court, and the clerk, when I go to show up, the clerk's like, "You're here to make a plea." And I'm like, "No, I already made my plea. I'm here because I got a court order." And she's nice. She's, "Oh, I'm sorry." She went back and checked the paperwork and the whatever it's called. They put everything in a file for your case. Yeah, case file. She checked the case file and found it. She's like, "I see you did make a plea. You pled not guilty." "You're right." So she's like, "I'm sorry about that." So she didn't check the box for showing up to make a plea. She checked some other box. And I didn't want to give my social security number. And she's like, "Well, that's okay. You don't have to. But the judge is going to demand that you give it. And if you don't, you're going to get a contempt of court and go in jail until you do." I'm just like, that's just great. Wow. Just the whole thing is just such a scam. You have to give your social security number, and it's compulsory. Why? There's no law that says anyone has to have a number. This is for tax purposes, and collecting social security has nothing to do with fighting a court case. How can the judge throw me in jail for not giving a number that I'm not even required to have by law? Blows my mind. But anyway, so I just give it to her because at this point I'm pretty terrified. I'm like, it really is. It's the belly of the beast. Call it the devil's lair, and you can feel the negative energy. It is dark. When you walk in that courtroom, it is dark energy. It's bad. And the judge is evil. They wear that black robe. They sit up high on the chair behind the bar. Gold fringed flag. Gold fringe around the flag. It's not a court of law. It's a maritime court. In any event, walk in there and it's just the energy's bad. Really, really, you can tell it's evil. There's just no other way to put it. When you know that you're innocent and you're walking into that room and you know the judge has all the power and there's nothing you can do about it, doesn't matter what the law says, the judge can order you to do whatever he wants, and if you don't comply, he can throw you in jail. That's his power. So it's a little terrifying, to be honest, but I'm in the courtroom, and so he's like, so what do you plea? I'm like, I already made my plea. You can check the case file. He's like, I need you to plea right now. Guilty, not guilty, no contest. And I'm like, I already made my plea. Please check the records. And he's like, he's not happy at all. Rarely does anyone question them, the judges. And I'm like I'm not shaking, but I'm terrified, but I'm trying to stand up at least to this little bit of what I know. I know that I've already made a plea. I read the code. I know what the code said. I know it's in their file. So why do I have to do it again? So this goes back and forth maybe about 4 or 5 times. He's like, if you don't make your plea right now, I'm going to find you in contempt. And I'm just like, unbelievable tyranny. Like, I've already made my plea. Why do I have to do it again? So I do it anyway. I'm like, not guilty. Happy? I didn't say that. Sarcastic. That's what I'm like, are you happy now? They want you to bow down and, follow orders. It doesn't matter what the law says. So despite having already made my plea, now I've put in my plea. So now he's kind of a little more happy. He's like, okay, so gonna set your bail at $100. I'm like, $100? The ticket was for $40. But apparently 100 is the maximum they can give you for that. So that's what the bail. They set the bail at the maximum fine. So apparently other states are far worse, but in Montana, relatively low rates, fines, low extortion rates. Anyway, $100. So I don't have 100 cash on me. It has to be cash. I'm like, I don't have that. Could I? And you see, when you're in these courts, you, at least in Montana in the traffic court, I think pretty much across the country, you're in a room and everybody around is pretty much in there to, for the same reason you're in there. They're there to make a plea, or they're there for this hearing or that deal. And so it's just a bunch of DUIs, a bunch of no registrations, no insurance, no seatbelts, no all this. And so you get to kind of see how it works. Some of them have lawyers and whatnot. And anyway, I remember I had seen one of the guys that got called up before me had requested till the end of the day to be able to pay his bond, and the judge had given him an okay. He said, to the end of the day. So I go, and I'm thinking, I don't have the money. I don't want to get thrown in jail. So I'm like, okay. I'm like, can I have to the end of the day? And the judge is like, well, since I gave someone else to the end of the day, to be fair, I'll give you to the end of the day. I'm just like, to be fair. Like, as if he hadn't done that to someone else, he was going to deny my request and just haul me off to jail. Anyway, he's like, but if you don't have it, you have till 5 o'clock tonight. If you don't have the money, show up and check yourself into the jail. I'm like, right, because people are going to check themselves in to the jail. It's like, it's just unbelievable. Anyway, so I come back, give them the $100, get my receipt for the bond, and then start doing more research to how to fight this. I really don't know if there's a good way to fight a speeding ticket, but I want to try. And my main argument is going to be, it's America, right? Innocent until proven guilty. So I want to have the cop have to prove that I was speeding. And I want to show that he can't prove it. I don't know how I'm going to do that. Do a lot of research. So next step, discovery. You get your discovery. I really want to get the tape, the recording, and a bunch of other stuff. I want to know what type of radar gun they use in their calibrations and all this different stuff. So I do a discovery request. No response, so I do a second discovery request demanding that I get discovery, and then they ignore them, and they set your discovery hearing, and they don't do anything until the hearing. So, but I had already put my request in, so he knows what I want. But they don't listen to your request. They give you a packet. It's what they give you, and I'm like, okay, but I wanted all this other stuff. Where is it? How is it not my right to have the details of what type of radar gun is used? What if there's a long history of this particular radar gun being inaccurate? These are things that you would want if you're, making a case. But no, they give you stuff which is basically the history. They give you basically what the prosecution's going to use against you. And they give you the CD of the traffic stop, and that's all you get. After the discovery hearing, I put in another request for discovery saying I have not gotten the discovery that you're required by law to give me anything that pertains to the case. That's what it says. I don't know the exact words, but it's anything that you're going to use in your case, you have a right to get. Nothing. Never ever got anything. So it's just, at this point I can tell, like, I don't stand a chance. This thing is rigged beyond belief. It's not a justice system, it's injustice system. It's just the courts, that's where they actually do the extortion. It's a big extortion racket, and the court perpetuates it, and they cover for the corrupt cops that sometimes, at least, get completely innocent people. Anyway, so we watched the CD, me and the guy that's acting as my counsel. Constitution says you have counsel, right to counsel. It doesn't say anything about a lawyer. The fact that they say you have to either represent yourself, which you can't do. You can't represent yourself. Representing is for someone else. But they use all these words against you, and it's really pointless getting into the specifics of it. But they say that you can either represent yourself or you have a lawyer. There's no such thing as just counsel. You should be able to bring anyone you want. Doesn't matter if they're bar accredited, but that's part of the scam. If you're not bar accredited, British Association Registry, I think, is what bar stands for. No, British Accreditation Registry. British Accredited Registry. So, it's British. That's the basic gist of it. Is it's a British deal, and it's all under Crown law. It's not constitutional law. But that's a whole nother subject for another video as well. Point being, you don't, according to the Constitution, there's nothing about in the Fifth Amendment, I believe it's the Fifth Amendment, that you have a right to a lawyer. You have a right to counsel anyone you choose. Nope, that right is gone. There's no Fourth, Fifth Amendment in the... Really, there's none of the amendments are left. All of our rights have been trampled. They're all gone. It's all based on these unconstitutional... they're not courts. They're not courts of law. They're maritime courts. They're commerce courts, and it's all about money. They're suing you. It's not about committing a crime. A traffic violation is not a crime. There's actually people that have been in the racket that expose it for what it is. It's a money extortion racket. That's all it is. And there's all sorts of ways that it can be proven, but it's not a court of law. It's a commerce court. They're suing you for money. You have no constitutional right for your counsel because it's not an actual constitutional court of law. Now, of course, even in the real even in an actual so-called court of law, you still don't have that right. You have the right, but they deny it. You try to bring in someone that's not a lawyer to be your counsel, and they say no, can't happen. Throw them out. They'll straight up throw you out of your own trial or your own proceedings. It's happened. I've seen it. Other stories, but I'm getting a little off track here. Anyway, so me and my counsel, he offered to come in court on my actual day of trial, but I wanted to go it alone, just, I don't know, to prove to myself something stupid. I should have had him go in there, but nonetheless, so no discovery, that's denied, but we watched the video and we're like, this is looking good. Maybe we can use the fact that the cop was clearly a liar. He accused me of having a bong when it was a window shield scraper. That's all on the video. Maybe that's a good use. So I'm like, okay. So he advises me that I should write to the court and tell them that I'm keeping the CD for my evidence. I'm entering it as evidence, and I will bring it into court with me. So I do. I get a call. Apparently, you only have 2 weeks to loan the CD. It's state property, and if you don't, it's theft, they say. So it's kind of a little crazy, but he said according to the actual code in the Montana Code Annotated, the MCA, that's the Montana Code. Super many books. It's ridiculous how many codes there are, but apparently in the MCA, you have a right to keep your evidence that you get in discovery, and then what you do is you enter it into the record, and then you bring it into court. So I said that's what I'm going to do. So I get a county attorney assistant calls me up on my phone. See, they don't want to put their threats on the record. So she calls me up and threatens me. She says, if you don't hand in that thing by the end of the 2 weeks, you are going to get a felony theft charge for stealing state property. I try to explain to her, I'm like, no, this is my discovery, and I'm going to bring it into court. I'm not stealing it, and it will be returned to the state at the trial. And she says, well, if you don't bring it in by the end of the 2 weeks, then felony theft charge. I wish I could have recorded that. Anyway, and then after threatening me with a felony, if I didn't turn it in by the end of the 2 weeks, which was like the next day, she then says, but you can have a grace period of another week. So which is it? Do I have another week, or will I get a felony charge? It's just ridiculous, and none of that's on record. Everything that you do, every pleading you make, every request, every filing, you have to do certified mail, or they can claim they never got it. But when they send you letters to appear, changes in court dates, anything like this, they can change your court date by sending you a letter. They don't have to send it by registered mail. And if you don't get it, it's your fault. Yeah, they can actually do that. People have actually gotten warrants out for them because they were supposedly sent a letter. Who knows if they even sent the letter or not, but they never got it. That said, a court date. Your court date's been changed. It's been, fast forwarded 2 weeks. Got to come in 2 weeks early. If you never get the letter, they don't have to have a record that they sent the letter, and it's your fault. But if you send them a letter and they don't get it, if you don't have the certification that you sent it, then it's your fault. It's always your fault. So it's just another way that it's rigged. But I made a complaint that I'd been bullied by someone in the county attorney's office, and judge nevertheless demanded that I give the CD back. So at this point, I'm like, I'm screwed. If I give them the CD back, doesn't matter that I've made a copy of it. I can bring the copy in and play it in court, or they will just have their CD and they'll play it in court, and who knows, by that time they could have edited it. It could be totally different. The stuff that I want to use might not even be left in it. And how am I going to keep track of each point that I want to enter, at 30 minutes or 28 minutes or this, that, and the other? I want to have this thing so that I can edit it and pull out just what I want and play like a 5-minute clip of what I want to play. That's not how it works. Anyway, so I give in. I give it back. I don't want no mess with no felony charges. This is getting ridiculous. This is the lengths they'll go to for if you dare resist their way of doing things, even if you have the law or you have what you think is the correct interpretation of the law. Doesn't matter. Their interpretation, the only right interpretation. So, sorry this video is going a little longer than I wanted, but this is quite the story, and it's corrupt. And I really get passionate about it because it's crazy. Innocent people really have no way to get justice. And anyway, so at this point, I'm like, I don't know. My main argument, I guess, is just going to be that I've had many speeding tickets in the past, and I've paid every single one because I was speeding. This is literally the first time I've ever contested a single ticket out of maybe 6 to 8 speeding tickets. The judge will have to understand that because I've always paid my tickets in the past, and I'm contesting this one, it's because this time I'm innocent, right? And I'm like, but mainly I'm just thinking I'm curious, how's the cop gonna prove that I was speeding? What I wanted him to enter in is I want him to have a video of the radar gun as I pass, with the radar gun clocking me at 86. But they don't have that. They don't have a video camera on the radar gun, see? That's part of the scam. They have a radar gun. It has three different LCDs. They can save 2 of them and use 1 of them. So what they can do, I learned, I talked to a lot of people as I was going through this and before and after the actual trial, and what I found is this is not uncommon. This happens all too often. I met several people that I told this story to, and they said, oh yeah, happened to me. I wasn't speeding, but he got me for way over. And I actually met a guy who, he had money. He was rich, and he told me a story about the next county over. There was a pass where they like to get people for speeding, and apparently there was one particular cop, Highway Patrol, same agency, Montana Highway Patrol, and she, I think it was a she was known for getting people that weren't speeding, and it was pretty well known, but no one had the means to actually fight it because no one could afford a lawyer, and without a lawyer, you're screwed. You have, pretty much, if you need a lawyer, it's ridiculous, and lawyers cost a lot of money, and for a $40 podunk little speeding ticket, it's ridiculous to have a lawyer for a $40 ticket to prove that you're innocent. But it's also ridiculous that because it's such a small amount of money, people don't care. Oh, who cares if you were innocent? I got this so often. Nah, I don't believe you. You were speeding. There's no way that they would actually get you if you weren't. You must be lying. You're lying. There was points when I started to question if my eyes were lying to me because so many people told me I don't believe you when I told them the story. But anyway, this guy, he told me the story that he got pulled over for speeding by this lady, and he had money, and he knew he wasn't speeding, and he heard these stories, local stories, that this happened in this department, in this area, and so he got a lawyer. And she's like, I think we can beat this. And I don't remember the specifics of how she was able to beat this. This story I actually heard after my trial. But basically, the lawyer knew the ins and outs of how everything worked and was able to prove, I guess, with enough evidence to show the judge that she was, in fact, had gotten him for not speeding. You know how they do it? They have the 3 different screens. So someone going, say 90 miles an hour in a 70, they can clock you and they can save that, and they can still be using one of the other 2 to clock future people, but they can save that on the screen, so it's still there on the screen. Now, so say someone goes by in a Mercedes or any brand new car, any nice new looking car. They probably have insurance. They probably can afford a lawyer. They probably have their registration in order. They target the poor. That's what I learned what this is all about. They typically target the poor. The poor are more likely to have no insurance. They're more likely to have expired tags because they can't afford to get it right when they expire. They're more likely to have warrants out for them. At least that's how they think. If you're poor, you're more likely to have drugs, especially drugs. If you're poor, you're more likely to have drugs in the car. And you're simply an easier target because you can't afford a good lawyer. So there'll be people in cars, nice looking cars that they know are not easy targets. So they'll clock those, say, at 86 miles an hour. Then they wait. Then they get a target and they want an excuse to pull over this car like mine, my old Mazda. Oh, I bet he probably doesn't have insurance and he probably got drugs, looking for a drug bust. So, I clocked this guy at 86. I got it on my 3rd screen over here. And they just switch to that screen, and then when you get in the car, they're like, look, you're going 86, and probably some people would probably be convinced, oh, I must have been, my speedometer must be off 16, I'm sorry, officer, I didn't fall for that, but so that's how the game works, and it got proved in a court of law in Madison County, that Bozeman's in Gallatin County, that's where this happened. Marty Lambert was the county attorney, but in Madison County that's where this lady got in trouble, and he got not guilty plea, and it got shown that that's what she had been doing. She'd been clocking fast looking or new looking cars that were not easy targets, saving them in one of the slots, and then using that as the evidence for someone that got pulled over an hour later, 2 hours later, whenever they found a good target, whatever they thought was a good target. So that's pretty much how the scam works when they do this scam. and that generally seems to be the case. They seem to target the poor cars. It's a war on the poor is really what it is. So anyway, back to my trial. So I'm getting close to trial here. I don't know really how I'm going to fight it. I go into court alone. Again, the whole darkness. It's the devil's lair, man. It's bad. So you get there. It's not a court of record. There's no record. It's ridiculous. It's just you, the judge, the cop, and the prosecutor. So the prosecutor walks in with the cop together. They walk in together. It's not supposed to happen. It just shows you they're on the same team. It's ridiculous. The prosecutor's supposed to be independent. But they're not. The attorney is not about getting the criminals and making sure they only prosecute cases that have good cases of guilt. No, their job is to prosecute whatever the cops tell them to prosecute. Whenever the cop wants to extract your money, their job is to get that money from you. That's their job. And the judge's job is to make it seem like there's a semblance of justice involved. But there's not. Anyway, I walk in all alone. They walk in together, and I can see that the deck of cards is stacked against me. Anyway, I'm pretty nervous. Pretty sure I'm going to lose, but I want to see what the cop has for evidence. So, they do the little things. Cop goes first. The attorney goes first. She lays out what her argument is, brings up the cop as the first witness. The cop basically testifies, yes, he was going on this street at such and such a day. I verified it was Mr. Hall. They don't call you by your first name. They call you always by your last name. It was Mr. Hall. I verified by checking his license that it was him. He had a dog in the car and a passenger that was arrested and clocked him at 86. Bring forward this piece of paper for the evidence. That's literally what they had for evidence. The attorney brought forward a piece of paper, and she asked the cop. She's like, so what's this? And he explains. He's like, yeah, this is the, see right here it says 86 printed on the paper. She's like, oh, okay. He's like, I printed that off. Okay, you printed a piece of paper that said 86. That's evidence that I was speeding. And he testifies in a court. He testifies that he's not lying, that sheet of paper that he admits he printed off, he's the one accusing me, he says that is what the radar got. That's came from the radar. Who knows if that's this does not sound like this doesn't sound like conclusive evidence to me. I'm thinking I got it pretty good. I'm thinking I should have brought in a piece of paper that said 70, and I should have been like, I printed it off. 70, see? That's how ridiculous it seemed to me. And I wondered, should have done it. Should have printed off a piece of paper that said 70, and I should have said, I printed it off. Therefore, I'm innocent. But anyway, he said he printed off that paper. He said it was an accurate representation of what the radar gun said. Okay, so he brings radar, and I immediately, I do object to him using the radar against me because the radar is not in there, and I want to cross-examine my accuser. I have that right, so I said I want to cross-examine the radar gun. I'd like to see the radar gun, and the judge is like, oh, no, that's been shown in such and such a court case. These radar guns have been proven in a court that they're accurate. And equipment is exempt from the such and such code that said that the accuser has the right to be cross-examined. If you want, you can cross-examine the officer. So I asked the officer a few questions. I asked him, did he calibrate it that day? Yes, he calibrated it that day. And then the attorney asked him, is he trained in calibration? Oh, yes, I'm certified. I've had 2 certifications in calibration, so I'm an expert. So as if this has anything to do with his ability to lie. It doesn't, but it's the game. Anyway, so I forget exactly what I asked him, but I asked him if he calibrated it that day. Yes, he calibrated it that morning. I think I asked him if the gun said 86, and he said, yes, it said 86. And, there's not much you can do. It's literally, it's his word against yours. His word and a piece of paper that he prints off, that he signs, and he says it represents what the gun said. There's no pictures of the actual radar saying 86. Nope. There's no video of the radar gun clocking me. Why isn't there a video up there showing the radar gun 86 while I'm in view passing him? Why is there not that evidence? Why don't they mandatoриze that? Probably because they know this is an intentional loophole. If they don't have a camera on the radar gun, then it's always going to be the cop's word against yours. A piece of paper that he prints off that he claims represents what the radar gun said, what he claims it said. Anyway, so I make my argument, and my argument's basically, I don't think the officer, innocent until proven guilty. I state that I'm innocent, and, Your Honor, you gotta say Your Honor. You can't disrespect them. So Your Honor, you can see that I've had so many speeding tickets in the past, and to be honest, I was speeding. That's why I paid the tickets. So the only reason that I am contesting this one is because I'm truly not guilty. I'm innocent. I explained that I wanted these things that I just explained to you guys. The judge is like, oh, no, we don't have to have that. We don't have to have video of the gun catching you. No, we don't need that. It's been shown that, it's been shown that these things are accurate. Well, it doesn't really matter if the gun's accurate if the cop's lying about what the gun said, which is my point. But I make my argument. I make my case. I say I don't think he's brought any evidence that actually shows my guilt. He's printed a piece of paper, and he hasn't actually showed the gun clocking me at 86. So, innocent until proven guilty. Plus, as you can see, I've always paid my tickets because I've always been guilty. So this should show you that the only reason I'm fighting it is because I'm innocent. And, yeah, there's no evidence. There's no case against me. This is absurd. Okay, he says. So he looks at his notes. He took notes on both when I made my case and when the prosecutor made her case and what the cop said. And he looks at his notes. Takes about a minute. Looks up at me. He's like, okay, so here's the deal. I remember this part clear as can be. He's like, I believe you're innocent. I'm like, whoa. He's like, but here's the deal. I believe the cop. I believe the cop too. So I'm going to have to find you guilty. I'm just like, what? You believe I'm innocent, but you believe the cop who says I'm not innocent. You can't believe both of us, dude. You're a judge. You're supposed to be a judge. How can you be saying that you believe two absolutely contradictory statements that are mutually exclusive? And why would you dare say this to my face? I believe you're innocent, but I believe the officer, so I'm going to have to find you guilty. Because you're not innocent until proven guilty. You're guilty until proven innocent, which is demonstrated in the next words he said to me. He said, I could have found you innocent if you had brought more evidence. Come on, dude. It's not, burden of proof is not on me. It's on the officer who did not bring any proof. It's his word against mine. I probably should have brought a piece of paper that said 70, and I should have entered that as evidence, and I should have said I printed it off. I don't know, what to say. It's absurd that he would say that. I know you're innocent. I believe you're innocent, but I believe the officer, so I'm gonna have to find you guilty. It shows exactly how the system works. You have to believe the cop if you're a judge. That's your job. Your job isn't to differentiate between guilt and innocence. It's to believe the cop unless there's an overwhelming amount of evidence to disprove the cop. The cop doesn't have to bring anything to prove his word. You have to bring something forward to disprove what the cop is saying. And I probably should have still tried to have him play that scene with the cop finding the bong was actually a window shield scraper, and I should have used that against him. See, like, look, clearly he was going after me. He accused me of having a bong, of smoking marijuana, of possessing marijuana, all of which was a lie. If he can lie about that, he can lie about what the radar gun said. Doesn't matter. I was a little bit, at that point, I was a little scared, and I just wanted to get it over with and get it over with as quick as possible. And anyway, I was blown away by the end result. And this is what he said, if you would have brought more evidence forward, then I could have found you innocent, not guilty. I could have found you not guilty. But straight up saying, if you proved that you were innocent, if you proved that you were not guilty, then I could have found you not guilty. The burden of proof is on the defender. It's on the accused. That is not how the American justice system was supposed to be set up. That is not how any system based on justice is set up. It is an injustice system. That's what it is. It's a fraud. It's a scam. And yes, I'm a little passionate about it because I've seen firsthand how evil. It's evil. I can't find any other word for it. It's evil. Anyway, so not over with yet. I really wish it was a court of record so I could have got all this, because this was the defining point. This was where it was at. The whole fight, the whole court case, none of it mattered. What mattered is that a judge said to my face that if I would have brought more evidence, he could have found me guilty. It blows the whole fake idea that you're innocent until proven guilty. It blows it out of the water. It shows how disgustingly backwards, unjust, how much of a fraud this whole so-called justice system is. And how I wish I had a recording of him saying, I believe you're innocent, but I believe the officer, so I'm gonna have to find you guilty. I'm sorry that I've repeated this 3 or 4 times now, but this is the heart of the matter to me. This is where it's all at. Probably should have started out with this at the beginning of the video, because I know lots of people don't like to watch hour-long videos. I'm almost done with the story now. Anyway, the prosecutor, she asked the judge, she demanded that I get the maximum penalty of $100, and she also demanded that I pay the officer for his time coming to court. Now, keep in mind, he's already getting paid. He's on the job. When they go to court, they get paid by the state. Your taxes already pay for that. But no, she wants me to pay more, like some $60 an hour or something. So another 60 or $100. I don't know. It was ridiculous. And the judge just straight up's like, he pretty much laughed out loud. He's like, no. He's like, that's what he said. He said just what I said. He said, officer's already getting paid by the state. He doesn't need to get paid double for showing up. He's already getting compensated for his time here. And I believe that the original $40 fine is fair, and I'm going to refund the additional $60 of the bail. And he told me I can get that on my way out, and have a nice day, basically. And thanks for taking part in this whole fraudulent thing, and bye-bye, see you now. And when he said you should have brought more evidence, he also said you could have brought, I asked him, I'm like what? What evidence can I bring? And he's, you could have brought witnesses. I guess if you pay for witnesses that can talk about how radar is, not radar, but can talk about how car speedometers only fluctuate by 2 or 3 miles an hour typically on that specific car, then if he believed me and he had someone that testified that they only fluctuate by, say, 5 miles an hour, then that would have helped my case. I'm not really sure, but he said I should have brought more evidence, and he could have found me not guilty. He believed I was not guilty. He believed I was innocent, but he had to find me guilty anyway, because Cops never lie. That's the gist of the story. And that's how they get you. So sorry this video has been a little bit longer. That's pretty much my story. So haven't been pulled over too many times since then. I've got a few other stories, not for this video, but I'll be back. I'll share my rest of my stories in another video. This one's by far the most in-depth, longest, and probably most enlightening to show how the system works. So, you know, next time you see someone pulled over on the side of the road getting a ticket, even if you believe in the system, doesn't mean that they were actually breaking that traffic code that you believe in. They might just be 100% innocent. They might not be speeding. They might have to pay a fine anyway. Because that's how it works. You're guilty until you're proven innocent. Now, this is an American police state, and there's no justice in the courts. And that's the truth. It's been Jason. Have a good one, guys. Stay safe out there. Avoid the cops at all costs. They're not your friends. They're there to take your money. That's what they do. That's what they're paid to do. Have a good one. Peace.